motorcycle journey. A deuce, a heritage, a sporty.
Belly's new bike, Belly Beamer. Ah, look at this. So, Belly, what do you reckon about the new bike, mate?
I've done a bit of flying in my time.
Yeah.
That's as close as you can get to flying without actually leaving the ground.
Oh, I love the exhaust.
Yeah. And it's just so good. If I put shit in the truck, it just won't. It's nothing like that.
The boys commenced the next part of the ride, heading off to Port Macquarie to meet Billy and Rosie.
After a quick fuel stop on the Goldie, Bick, Belly, and Classic settled into a nice pace. Classic takes the opportunity to film Belly's new R1100S. With the morning sun beaming down on the boys' back and blue skies ahead, excitement was building as they looked forward to meeting up with the lads from down south.
Now well underway, the boys have a short 500-kilometer ride in front of them today.
As the guys approach a tunnel on the Pacific Highway, Classic was anticipating Bick to do his usual Tunnel Mania sound check. He was unfortunately disappointed.
Hey Billy, wonder if BMW make a larger size pannier for our Beamers.
Cruising down the Pacific Highway after crossing the state border into New South Wales, the boys pick up the pace.
Belly and Bick enjoying the ride and the 29-degree weather.
Bick has found his motorcycle mojo and is kicking back in the zone, just taking it all in. His ponytail is taking advantage of the fresh air and is flapping around in the 23-degree breeze. Looking forward to a lemonade, he thinks to himself.
The landscape in northern New South Wales is fantastic. Many of the paddocks are filled with sugarcane or fruit trees. An easy ride so far. Belly is soaking up the gammas and getting used to the Beamer. The cane fields roll across the landscape as the boys approach the Boardwater sugar mill, which is off in the distance on the right-hand side. Bick has assumed the road captain role and taking charge on point. A very rare weather occurrence is unfolding before the lad's eyes. For the first time in many years, there is no rain on the ride, just clear blue skies. A biker's heaven. Classic and Belly enjoying the ride, and note there is a tunnel up ahead. Will Bick commence his Tunnel Mania sound check, they thought.
The boys make their way to Coffs Harbour to do battle with the traffic in the main street just after the Big Banana. They all said, bring on the completion of the Coffs Harbour bypass.
After a fuel stop in Coffs Harbour, the boys head off to Port Macquarie to meet Billy and Rosie.
Bick is trying out his new sign language. Only problem, no one can decipher his movements. Tiptoeing through the roadworks around the Coffs Harbour bypass, the boys start the last leg of the ride to Port Mac. Classic takes the opportunity to capture some footage of Bick and Belly riding southbound towards Maxville. Classic launches Hunt Aviation. The drone now launched, he is capturing Bick powering down the Pacific Highway and looking very comfortable and relaxed. And then, like a bolt of lightning, Belly launches the beamer. Bick decides to launch the Harley, and with a crack of the wrist, the bike is off. How good is this? Bick has set the cruise control on the bike and enjoying the ride. Belly is looking decidedly happy on the beamer. Belly and Classic commenced their well-practiced synchronized lane switching. They spent hours on the road in all weather conditions to execute such highly trained maneuvers. And Bick captures this rare moment. And Bick's Harley looks well planted on the pavement. He is still just kicking back. And Belly, who has fallen behind in the background, winds the beamer up.
Classic is doing it easy, setting the active cruise control on the Beamer and just kicking back.
The boys are soaking up the great weather and just enjoying the ride down the Pacific Highway heading to Coffs Harbor. Would not be dead for quits.
Classic is settling into the ride. His Beamer looks like a mobile telecommunication film studio with all the gear attached.
As the boys near Port Macquarie, Bick takes the opportunity to capture Classic doing his biker wave.
Belly's new bike, the BMW R1100S, is well planted on the road. He looks very comfortable on the new sled, plenty of balls when he wants to crank it on.
Goes red in the middle.
Yeah.
Turn it off.
The welcome party at Port Macquarie.
Rosie takes on Bick.
For a late night glass of good red wine.
Well, here we are, back at the old L, Port Macquarie. Great ride yesterday, coming up, sunshine everywhere, until last night. Thunderstorms, lightning, piss down rain. Always had a good ride up from Sydney. So getting ready to head off today towards Tamworth via Gloucester. We've decided not to go via the Oxley Highway due to landslides from the previous storms.
Rosie talked to me all yesterday. What? Okay. Mate, I don't even know who you are. Why don't you just mind your own business?
It's always about you.
Mind your own business and just stay over the other end of the car park, will you? I'll call the fucking police.
Yeah.
You're gonna get nasty.
Just a small though.
Departing Port Macquarie, heading towards the first stop at Gloucester.
The morning sky over Port Macquarie hung heavy and gray, a thick blanket of cloud stretching from horizon to horizon. The 5 Hunt brothers had been planning this ride for months, And now, it was finally happening. They rolled out of Port Macquarie at 8:47 a.m., Classic leading the boys out of town. The overcast sky was very gray and had muted tones, but spirits were high. No rain so far. The Pacific Highway hummed beneath their wheels before they turned inland toward the Bucket's Way. After the first hour had passed, the boys were delighted to see blue skies in the distance. 4 of the Hunt brothers are wired up with cardos and were gas-bagging to each other about how good it was to finally be back on the road and putting shit on each other again. What the f***?
Must have been the mangoes.
Billy has now settled into the motorcycle rhythm on the ride, and the sound of his fat boy was right on song as we all made way down the Pacific Highway near Taree. The boys did have to take a few points away from Billy as he didn't wash his bike before the ride, a cardinal sin in the motorcycle diaries that said, "The hog still looks great." Rosie is feeling great and happy to be clocking up some miles on his bike. It's been a while since he last blessed the boys with his company. His bike encountered a starter button malfunction, which resulted in a few push starts. No big deal for the big unit. Just a few short steps and a mighty push, and he had the beast fire into life again. The Hunt brothers now forming one of their single-file road trip routines, well executed after decades of experience roaming the countryside. The boys were sucking up the vibes and energy from riding their bikes with their mates and enjoying the great weather. A few kilometers down the road, the boys encountered a biker's best friend, a great wood duck. As they rounded up the white snail traveling southbound, the wood duck suddenly emerged. The Ford F-250, towing a boat trailer, thought it was a great idea to turn the Pacific Highway into a F1 track and show the bikers just how quick the American beast was, and blasted down the black pavement. The boys were happy to use the Woody until the turnoff. Finally, the boys hit the bendy and twisty bits and started the journey along the Bucket's Way. The sound of the Harleys vibrating across the countryside, and the Beamers sounded like sweet hummingbirds, and the Quarka, well, it sounded like a Quarka. As the lads approached the regional township of Crambach, discussions centered around riding along Thunderbolts Way. Arriving at the Crambach turnoff, Bick pauses for a moment as his sensors pick up there may be a lemonade shop nearby. Bick steers his hog into the main street, and Rosie muscles in on Billy as they power past the lemonade shop on the left-hand side of the township, waving at the lone biker pulled up for a break. Boys encouraged Bick to hold his thirst until they arrive in Gloucester. Classic moves the beamer into position to capture the scenery ahead, while Bick and Rosie set the pace for the ride, and Billy wrestles with his cardo to turn the music off.
The boys arrived in Gloucester, stopped for a coffee break before heading off to Tamworth.
And now the lads head off from Gloucester to the country music capital, Tamworth.
The Hunt brothers, now charged with coffee, made way for one of Australia's top 10 motorcycle roads, the Thunderbolts Way. And Billy now assumed the control of the GoPro, could not help himself to capture, yes, himself. Captain Thunderbolt, the gentleman bushranger. Frederick Wordsworth Ward, better known as Captain Thunderbolt, remains one of Australia's most enduring bushrangers. Born in 1835, convicted of horse theft in 1856, and sent to the notorious Cockatoo Island penal settlement, he achieved one of the colony's most remarkable escapes in 1863, swimming to freedom through shark-infested waters, an event that marked the beginning of his 6-year career as an outlaw. Ironically, the highway carries his name. The Hunt brothers now make their way through remarkable scenery, with hills which look like mountains and paddocks which mirror bowling greens. The boys ride their way through very interesting forests. The flora and fauna along the Thunderbolts Way is almost prehistoric-like scrub. Classic takes the opportunity to crank up the beamer. Bick even comments on the undulation of the landscape en route to Tamworth. And Belly Musical Wonder, or BMW for short, is putting the 1100 through its paces as he steers the bike to the home of country music. And Classic made mention over the cardo that Tamworth is the birthplace of the Hunt brothers. Way back in 2003, some 23 years ago, many of the original boys did a 7-day run all those 23 years ago, combining many lemonades, headaches, poor food, and finishing with the 100th anniversary of Harley-Davidson in Sydney. And Rosie, who has been absent from rides, continues to muscle in on Billy. Taking note of the road condition, not much has changed since Captain Thunderbolt carved his way through the area. And as the boys climb the mountain range, the weather turns to shit as they encounter upper atmospherical precipitation. The boys did not encounter any bushrangers on the ride to Tamworth. They did, however, encounter rain and a temperature drop from 29 degrees to 12 degrees. The temperature almost froze the walls off a bark humpy. In keeping with Hunt Brothers standards, the accommodation in Tamworth met the criteria. After a few lemonades at the local RSL club the night before, the lads watched the Sydney Swans and the Canberra Raiders lost back-to-back. A sad ending to their respective 2023 campaigns.
Guy is currently looking really good today. Guy is sunny, but at the moment it's 5 degrees, getting up to 12 degrees by the time we get through it.
And before the lads split up and return to their respective abodes, they all head off to the Breakfast of Champions for a nourishing intake of calories and sugar.
Making the way to the Breakfast of Champions.
The lads worked their way through the menu. Billy asked the big unit if they had mangoes on the breakfast menu.
And Belly, Bick and Classic say goodbye to Billy and Rosie as the boys head towards their respective townships. So it's see you later, Tamworth, and hello, Warwick, Queensland. The weather looks set to be another great day for riding. Bick and Belly are settling in for the 450-odd kilometre ride up the New England. Landscape this time of year is just peachy. The morning temperature is a little frosty, however the cool air makes the bikes run great. This is what happens when you don't turn off the GoPro while filming Give Bick One Job. So let's make it. Bick decides to go for a squirt along the New England and capture the speed of his trusty sled. And now, back to the actual speed of the bike.
With Bick on the GoPro, he tried to capture the color of Belly's eyes.
These 100-year-old ancient yellow leaf spotted gyrogums line the New England highway, and the morning easterly sun casts shadows across the black pavement. It's still early morning. The boys are ripping up the New England highway. The country air is filled with the smell of green grass and fresh cow shit. Smells familiar to any biker traveling this area.
A biker has many hazards to contend with while life is on the road. One such hazard is the remote two-eyed revenue capture pole, a state government initiative to keep the riffraff under control in this area. As Bick wheels his bike through the twisty bits, he is reminded of another biker hazard, the dreaded Skippy morning roadkill. The boys are now settling into a nice morning ride. Classic decides to launch Hunt Aviation and throws up the fast-shot drone. And with Classic's impeccable timing, he captures what it was like to drive the New England in the 1930s.
It's now mid-morning and the boys roll into Glencoe, a tiny town on the New England. As they wheel their bikes steadily through Glencoe, they note the ancient half-lopped red-leaf jacaranda cedar trees. They are very native to this area. And as the time now tips 10:20 a.m., Bick senses a quaint English pub, a contender for lemonades to quench his thirst.
Bick has settled into using the GoPro now and has taken some great footage over the ride. The boys make their way down the Bolivia Hill descent and Bick takes point. He decides to bag up Belly and Classic. Focused on the road ahead, Bick notices a white snail traveling northbound down Bolivia Hill. And like some form of ancient magic, the white snail seems to disappear, and Bick continues to wander down the hill. It's now getting close to lunchtime, and the boys make their way through Gaira towards Tenterfield, where they plan to stop for a dietary Australian meat pie with dead horse and coffee. The boys now make their way through the tiny township of Tenterfield. They make comment about the stumpy, bumpy shortcut maple trees which line the left-hand side of the road, excitement building for a quick pit stop and grabbing that meat pie.
The town of Tenterfield got its name when pioneer settler Sir Stuart Donaldson named his sheep station Tenterfield in the 1840s.
Time is a traveler. Tenterfield saddler. Turn your head. Ride again, jackaroo. Think I see kangaroo. Up ahead.
This tidy town remains a pit stop for bikers of all categories, from hardcore bikers, adventure bikers, old farts on bikes, and many others. The town offers a great bakery and many good coffee shops.
After laying down some cold hard cash in the town and a quick bladder stop, the lads now turn their focus on the last leg of the day, the ride to Warwick, Queensland. With the afternoon sun now beaming down straight into the faces of the lads, it's time to pick up the sensors and keep an eye out for wildlife who may be keen to hightail across the New England highway right in front of the bikes. Bick is on point. Bick made mention over the cardo. He has seen some very large animals roaming aimlessly around the highway. After feeding their faces, the lads picked up the pace for the final part of the journey. Now approaching the Queensland border, they look forward to the highway road conditions winding back 15 years and keep an eagle eye out for potholes which swallow their bikes. And with a twist of the right-hand wrist, Belly cranks the beamer and is away. Upon arrival into Wollongara late in the afternoon, Bic's senses are immediately heightened. "Classic!" Bic shouts. "We are back in God's country." And with a crack of his voice, Queenslander Belly shouts, "We won the 2025 State of Origin NRL Series. Unreal. Go the Maroons." And the gents wind on the throttle to slip past the turd herder parked on the left. Almost in Warwick was the thought on their minds as the boys roll into Ballandean. When suddenly, Bic yelled, "Fuck me!" A wild southern Tranaquadasaw was on your right. Bic screamed. It looks like it was going to race across the road, mow down Belly and Classic. Fortunately, Old Mate was bolted to the pavement, so no one was injured during the filming of this event. Upon arrival in Warwick, the guys checked into the motel and unpacked their gear. They parked their bikes in a quiet corner of the building. The room was well above the hunt standards, 2 bedrooms. The double bed in the single room was allocated to the White Rabbit. Bic and Classic shared the ambience of an open area. The White Rabbit checked in with his stockbroker. Bic and Classic booked the transport to the restaurant, and they all prepared for a few lemonades and a good meal. The local limo service, Rose City Rides, were on time and excellent. The White Rabbit was on his best behavior last night. After saying goodbye to Bic, who departed Warwick early morning, Belly and Classic mounted the bikes and commenced the final part of their ride. With the sun shining and weather predictions for the day looking great, the lads left the motel and wandered through Warwick, heading for the coast. The bikes idling like smooth gravy, the boys waited for peak hour traffic before turning south towards Cunningham Gap.
The township of Warwick got its name through a popular theory suggesting the name was chosen by leading citizens in homage to Richard Neville, the powerful 16th Earl of Warwick, known as Warwick the Kingmaker.
Cunningham's Gap is a mountain pass in southeastern Queensland, located in the Main Range National Park. Due to many weather events in the area, the road is littered with roadworks, potholes and traffic lights, just what you need on a motorbike. Roadworks at Cunningham Gap have been ongoing since late 2022, following extensive damage from the 2019 bushfires, with major reconstruction and safety upgrades continuing towards an expected completion in 2027. Another classic capture, an old Ford car making its way towards Boona. The Ford Galaxy convertible rides over the country road like a Boston land crab. No doubt the owner is enjoying the fresh air of regional southeast Queensland. With the top down, the old Galaxy is doing it easy. If you cannot ride a bike in weather like this, old mate, is driving the next best thing. But Classic has had enough of watching the car meander down the road. The boys have had enough. Time to go. After Classic and Belly split up and make their way to their respective humble abodes, Classic is wheeling his way through the tiny village of Canungra, a motorcycle mecca. As the ride has now come to an end, what great memories the boys have created on the Rosie Returns run, forever to be immortalized onto YouTube so they can relive every moment. The Hunt brothers' next big ride is traveling through the snowy mountains in 2026. See you out there. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help. In 2012, some of the Hunt brothers rode around Australia. Belly, Billy, Rosie, Wheeze and Classic packed up their gear for an 11,000-kilometer ride. Filmed on the GoPro Hero 2 mounted on the back of Wheeze's hog, this rare archive footage is presented for those interested. Unfortunately, the GoPro Hero 2 did not have very good stabilization. The filming is a little shaky. The boys are cruising the highway somewhere out the back of the Kimberley Ranges. Wheeze cranks the granny glide into life to get in front of the boys. Remarkably, the big unit, Rosie, rode around Australia on his P-plates. The lads were wired up with cardos, but only 3 riders could connect up at a time in these vintage bike-to-bike comms. Belly looking good. And Billy moving into position. The big unit muscling in on Classic.